I'm Sam Worcester and I'm a project officer at the Inner Northern Local Learning and Employment Network. I'm speaking with Jamison Kingston today, a qualified plumber and musician. How's it going, Jamison?
I'm good, thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to chat to you today. I guess we'll just get started. When you're in high school, Jamison, did you always know that you were going to be a plumber? What subjects did you study in year 10 or, in secondary school in general? What were your interests and what drove your decision making in your career?
I always loved working with my hands in like woodwork and MDT and VCE and VCD. So I was a lot into the design work and being practical. And then it just happened to be that my father owned a plumbing business. So it was super fortunate for me just to do an apprenticeship. And I'm super appreciative that I did now because I've got that under my belt. At school though, I didn't expect to be a plumber.
Right.
I'm still pursuing my childhood dream of doing music, which was the driving force of doing the plumbing to just be the support.
Yeah. So I guess you, in high school, you didn't necessarily choose to be a plumber, but you kind of fell into it, so to speak. What was your experience with plumbing early on, and how did that change over the years? And
so it was super good in teaching me routine. The skills that I've learned off early mornings, I have put through the rest of my life, even outside of plumbing hours. It's some really beneficial things that I've learned. What was the second part of that question?
So from when you just entered into plumbing and started working with your dad to sort of getting qualified, what was your experience in the trade? What did you enjoy, and what were some of the challenges about it?
Some of the challenges were probably the long hours. Doing the 40-hour work weeks sometimes would be just draining energy-wise because it's quite a physical thing. But there was a lot of enjoyment too, because when you are obviously being very constructive and practical, you get to look back on your work and reflect. And it's an amazing feeling to look at what you've done and worked on, and then see it operate inside a really good house and be a part of a bigger thing.
What plumbing specifically, what advice could you give to, say, a year 10 student who's thinking about leaving school and doing an apprenticeship, or should they finish school? From your experience, what advice can you pass on to say someone that's...
I personally did year 11, but then realized I wanted to pursue plumbing. So I didn't do year 12. It wasn't needed. I don't think year 11 or 12 is really too essential for learning a trade, because you've learned your maths, your English is all good enough for the real world, especially in this industry. So if you know, and if you're very confident in what you want to do in the construction industry, then just follow that intuition and you'll be fine.
So I guess you entered plumbing initially sort of for pragmatic reasons, and that was to find a job where you could, have value and learn skills that you will always sort of have. What's been your experience after getting qualified and leaving the profession?
Yeah, that was the best bit. Being at the apprenticeship, because I went on as a subcontractor and I was able to actually move around bosses too. So the benefit of that is you can see how other experienced plumbers do their work. And that was one of the biggest lessons, because your one boss actually just has one fixed way of mainly doing things, but there's a million ways to do everything in plumbing. So it's good to question things sometimes too about the boss is doing, and just experience and learn from as many different teachers as possible. And then you'll gain your own knowledge from the best parts of everyone.
And
the freedom was good.
The freedom, yeah. And if you were to go back in time and wind the clock back, how would you do things differently, or with the knowledge that you know now about the path that you've taken?
For me personally, I'd probably just have more patience. That's a big thing with the apprenticeship, is just to make sure you have your patience, because it does take a while through the 4 years, and the long weeks can feel draining. But just to persevere, have patience, and be super understanding from where everyone's coming from on the construction site, because everyone's opinion is probably right to them. So you got to just understand that, take it on board, and never really disagree with anyone, and yeah, just make sure it's right to what you've been instructed to do.
Mm-hmm. And I guess now you're in a position where you're not tied to a plumbing employer full time. You're making income from your interest area, which was music, and you've been interested in music for some time now. Over the years, how did you balance, having your working life as a plumber and your interest in music, and how did that change over time?
It was from the very start of doing plumbing, I always knew I wanted to pursue music as a career. In the long term, that's my heart is my passion and the driving force. So most nights after my 8-hour days working, I would probably spend another 6 or 7 hours every single night working on my side hustle and my interest, to then hopefully develop enough of an income on its own to support and stand on its own. I still use plumbing now on the day-to-day to get a bit of money when I need it, but it's like mainly moved over to the music. But that's been a long time coming now, to like 7 years, 7 to 8 years.
And say somebody in that position who has, like, a student who has varied interests, artistic interests, and they are also sort of capable and interested in doing something very practical like plumbing. Once again, if you had your time again, how would you manage it better in terms of your, say, creative interest to that practical interest of the trade?
Yeah, I feel the best way to manage it is to make sure you divide up your mindset for when you're on the construction site and for when you're being creative. So I personally, if I did it again, I would be a lot more focused in the moment when I'm plumbing and not be drifting off with a lot of musical ideas, and just try to really be present there. And then when I'm home, turn on your creative brain and just focus on that, and then forget about the plumbing that you did in the day. If it was a bad day, you don't want that to affect anything you might create. So it's just about splitting them and having a divide, and then making sure your mindset is clear for whichever one you're doing.
That's good. So obviously we're in a time of, unusual circumstances with COVID. How has that changed your workflow? Obviously you had music, which as an income. Have you been plumbing at all, and how does that situation, how have you adapted during this time?
Yeah, I guess the music's been great. My songwriting itself has excelled in time because I've had a lot more time on my hands. My plumbing has backed off a bit because of the rules and regulations of having only like 5 people on a job site at a certain time. So I've been cut back in hours on there. But luckily, as you guys know now, I've been doing the music thing. So I've been able to focus more on that. And then as soon as it all eases back, hopefully can balance the two a little bit easier, but it's been tricky for sure.
And how does it feel knowing that, whatever circumstances arise, you've got, plumbing to you've got the ability to work in as a plumber, during times of change, or you can always rest upon that.
Of course, it's like stability, and you need that in a sense for life to excel in your art and your creative, because you need a foundation to not be worried about it and to maintain on your creative path. Having a foundation and a qualification like plumbing was essential for what I wanted to do. And yeah, I'm super appreciative and grateful that I've done that, for sure.
And Jamison, if you had to give your 16-year-old self advice, what would that be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Trying to think back to what I was like when I was 16. Maybe party a little bit less. No, I'm trying to think now. Serious one. For me, I think patience is virtue. I said that earlier in the thing, but I'm going to retouch on that again. everything good in life takes time, and having patience and understanding in that, and just like holding faith with what you believe and what you pursue and your interests. And I think you will be able to manifest that into your life now, as long as you just hold a clear vision. So yeah, if it's a 16-year-old myself, I would say be patient and just stay positive, optimistic. You will be fine, and you will do what you love if you persevere.
It's good advice. I wish I had heard that as a 16-year-old.
Sure.
I think that is all I wanted to ask you today. Thanks for jumping in on the call and sharing the words of wisdom. What does the future look like for you with music?
Hopefully very bright. If all goes to plan, I'm going to be releasing a song every month under my 2 projects, Jammo and Botworld, which are on Spotify. And hopefully just take that as a career, and when the festival season starts coming back, start touring, hopefully around the world. Yeah.
And if you were to put a percentage just quickly on out of 100, what at this point in time, what percentage of you is a plumber and what percentage of you is a musician?
Yeah, I'm 95% musician now, 5% plumber. And that's still good.
The day you finished your apprenticeship, you got your qualification, what would you say then?
When I got the qualification, I was probably 50-50.
50-50, yeah. That cheeky question at the end there. Thanks for that. I appreciate your time today.